certainly let me or myself know.
Okay, we got this going. Okay. Well, I'm pleased. We're super pleased to have Ashlee Williams here today, who's an assistant coach with the IU women's basketball team. And I'm reading a little bit from your bio, but you were recognized by the Women's Basketball Coaches Associations as a 30 under 30, and you have quite a fantastic history that I think you could probably speak to a little better than I could. So I'm not gonna jabber at the mouth. I'm just gonna turn it right over to you.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me again. I mean, unfortunately, we're still on Zoom a little bit, but you know that definitely does make it a little bit easier for me to make some time. But yeah, we are really excited about this coming year. So, you know, we're returning everybody from last year's Elite Eight run. All 5 starters, you know, are back, and they've looked really good so far this preseason. And then we've also added some new pieces as far as incoming freshmen and a transfer from Georgia, along with our younger guys that are now sophomores, who have all gotten better. And so, like I mentioned, we're about 8 or 9, 10 practices in, but we put a tremendous amount of work in this summer, in August and in September, as far as individual work. Player development is something we are huge on, and we spend a lot of time down there as assistant coaches and Coach Morin as well, and developing them individually, as well as them spending a lot of time with Kevin, our strength coach, and really working to get stronger in the weight room and to, you know, be the best conditioned team in the Big Ten. So we pride ourselves on that. We think a reason that we have a lot of success is that we outlast teams. You know, when the fourth quarter rolls around, we feel like we trust our conditioning. We're able to stay in gear, and we just wear teams down. And so, like I mentioned, you know, the Elite Eight run was awesome last year. It was unfortunate that, you know, it was during COVID and that our girls weren't able to experience the success that they had in front of fans in Assembly Hall, and then also, you know, making the NCAA tournament and experiencing, you know, fully what that's like with fans. But we made the most of it. I thought our group showed a tremendous amount of maturity and commitment to what was important. Somehow we managed to go the whole year and did not have a single case of COVID in our program. And I think that that was a win in itself, as far as that allowed us to really just stay on track and to focus each day and to prepare for each game and not have to have any pauses or any distractions. And the other pieces, I think our team grew really, really close, and our chemistry was unbelievable once we got to March and made it down to San Antonio. And so those guys, they're, you know, they play well together, obviously, but they're extremely close off the court. And right now it's even gotten better. And I think, as I mentioned, we've got the freshmen that are here now, you know, the new transfer from Georgia. They've done a great job of just meshing with our older vets and understanding that, you know, we've got great 5 out there that they can learn from, and just by simply observing and watching, and especially just kind of their work ethic and how they go about things. And so I know, as a staff, Coach Morin, we all could not be more excited about tipping off the season here in a few weeks. So I don't know if there's any specifics you guys want me to talk about, but, you know, just overall, we're keeping our head down and we're focusing on each day, getting better and getting ready to go come Butler, our opening game.
Well, could you speak a little bit to the, you know, your recruiting process and how it's been impacted in the past 2 years?
Sure. So these guys that just got to campus, they were all recruited during COVID. So our 3 freshmen, Kiara Berry, who's from Georgia, Caitlin Peterson, who's from Alabama, Mona, who's actually young lady from Serbia, Keandra Brown, who was with us last year, was supposed to be in this class as well. But we signed all of them during COVID-19, during the pandemic. And so we had to recruit all of them through film, through Zooms, was a very different process. But all things considered, they've showed up ready to work from day one. And they've, like I mentioned, they've done a great job of just observing, being willing to learn, being willing to be coached, and, just immersing themselves in our culture and buying into what we're asking them to do. As far as this 22 class, we have been able to get back on the road. Obviously, this past July, we were able to go back out, recruit, and watch live basketball and tournaments, which was great to be back out there. I know that the film and stuff, we made the most of it, but that was really difficult to evaluate talent, and to really see what we wanted to see as far as intangibles and things like that are equally as important to their skill level and ability to play on the court. So we were grateful to do that. We've still utilized Zoom because we've just liked it. We think it's a great way to get face-to-face communication as opposed to just one of the coaches being on the phone with a specific recruit. Zoom allows us all to be on there and kind of establish a foundation relationship-wise. We have been able to resume official visits, and so we've had quite a handful of 22s. So far, we've got Lily Meister commitment out of Minnesota, a 4-player. She committed a while back, so she's been committed. And then we just got a big one from Lexus Bargesser from Michigan. She's a top-rated guard, so really excited about her. So yeah, it's been really good just to not, to be back in person and to have these guys on campus to show off our beautiful, Bloomington community and facilities. And so it's been a lot better to be back to where we are.
So I have a question, and this is probably my ignorance. I don't really know any other sports but soccer. And there, you're normally living at your professional club by age 14 or so. So what is it, just high school basketball that you look at in recruits, or they're private leagues, or how do you evaluate, a youth or a recruit potential?
So when I mentioned being on the road in July is our biggest evaluation period. So there are 2 weeks in July right now on the calendar where we are able to physically go out, and these are AAU tournaments. So AAU is kind of like club. There are circuits in basketball. So there's a Nike circuit, there's an Under Armour circuit, there's an Adidas circuit, and then there's just regular club. And so Nike, the EYBL is what it's called, is probably the biggest and the most talented. And so we spent a majority of July at the Nike tournaments, which were in Chicago, Iowa, and Augusta, Georgia. So those are the July period. And then there's another couple evaluation periods in the spring are typically AAU or the circuit, or, whatever you want to call it, travel ball. And then we do still go, like we spent September, we were on the road a lot, going to high school workouts. And then once high school season starts, we will focus in on the ones that we're really, wanting to go recruit, and we'll go watch them in high school. But July, especially in those spring AAU evaluation periods, non-scholastic, as they call them, are the really big ones where we're trying to evaluate our big list. And then hopefully after July or before then, we're able to really focus in on which players we really want, and then utilize the high school calendar to go see them.
Does that limit your ability to see people that are not well off? So say inner city players, or do they have AAU scholarships for players like that?
I believe they do some form of scholarships. To tell you the truth, we're very much not aware of, when we go watch these players, of who's on scholarship and who's not. But yes, the Nike, the Under Armour, the Adidas, like they are known to help players. I know individual coaches will help look after players that may not have the means to go and travel. And so that exists for sure. Another positive from COVID, the pandemic, is, film. Like, we're still looking at a ton of film. So we'll see film a lot of times before we go physically see a player in person. And so I think that's a great way to really help anyone that may be flying under the radar due to their lack of exposure, if it's because they don't play on the Nike circuit, But so I would really like to think that, you know, there are so many ways now with social media and technology that very few players are going unnoticed.
So with that in mind, and Charlie, I see you got your hand up, or you've been trying to ask a question. Actually, Charlie, why don't you ask your question and I'll piggyback off of it.
Well, I assume as an assistant, you wear lots of different hats, but I was just curious what your primary title or job is.
Yeah. So I do get to get my hands dirty in quite a few things, which is awesome. But we do have a unbelievable support staff. So we've got so many resources for our players. We have an academic advisor, a strength coach, director of player development, director of operations. I mean, the list goes on, you know, video coordinator. So, you know, my job is predominantly basketball, which is awesome. I get to be on the court a lot during the day. So player development, skill development. I work with our guards. So that's a big one. I'm also very heavily involved in recruiting. We don't technically have a recruiting coordinator, but I do a lot of the logistics and organizational aspects, whether it's with, you know, keeping track of our recruiting lists or travel or any of that, scheduling visits, you know, but those are primarily my focus points.
So what I was going to ask, two questions. First of all, what has your history been with sports from a child forward, and how is that, you know, now that you're kind of seeing how the sausage is made, you know, how has that impacted, you know, you? And I'll save my second question for later, but really just, yeah, what's your background in it, and how validating is it being where you're at now versus where you were at, you know, when you first got into sports?
Well, and to Charlie, I should have added, all three of us assistants are heavily involved. We do scouting reports. So once the season rolls around, I'm just still in off-season mode right now, but obviously we will start scouting, and we split that up 3 ways, and we each take the lead on a scout. But we are very cohesive staff. We work together on a lot, and so yes, we will split up scouting reports and we'll each focus on one, but we all help each other. We all watch a ton of film, break down film, whether it's of the opponents or of ourselves. And so that's another really big thing, basketball piece. Then as far as that with my past, I guess you just want me to talk about kind of where I've been and how, you know, that's helped me now. Is that kind of the question?
Right. And I guess also, given where you're at now, is there something you wish you knew then that you know now? I mean, now that you're kind of on the inside of it, but I'm curious to know about your past.
Yeah. And so I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up right outside of Raleigh. North Carolina is definitely a basketball state, as is Indiana. So I grew up around the game. I grew up right in the Triangle, where I'm sure you guys are aware of the schools that are there. I went to the red one. I went to NC State. I played at NC State. I grew up a Wolfpack fan. A lot of my family went there. And so it was a dream of mine to play for Kay Yao growing up. Unfortunately, she, you know, lost a long battle with cancer before I was able to go to college. But I did go there. I played for Coach Westmore, who is still currently the head coach there. And I actually started my career as a walk-on. And so I walked on initially and then became a starter my last 2 years of college, and really couldn't have asked for a better experience. So I was able to play and to have a really good role on a really good team. So I was able to experience a couple of NCAA tournaments as a player, postseason play, playing in one of the most competitive leagues in the country, and also learned a ton from Coach Moore. He has an incredible winning percentage. It's around about 80. He spent a lot of time at UT Chattanooga, where he and his teams pretty much dominated the SoCon for years before he went to NC State. And now he's done a phenomenal job there. And so I think from that, I learned a ton from him as far as the preparation it takes to be successful at this level, the level of commitment and focus and competitiveness and work ethic that it takes to be the best and to win. And so he's somebody that really opened my eyes to that. I think I grew a passion for that side of things as far as the coaching through my experience in college. You know, and I think very early on in my college career, I thought coaching could be something I wanted to get into. And so fortunately, not only was he a great resource for me, but all three assistants that I played for there have helped me a lot as far as with my coaching network and helping me get opportunities. One of which was Coach Gene Hill, who's now the head coach at Georgia State, worked previously with Coach Morin at Georgia Tech. And I believe they may have even had a stop at Butler. But nonetheless, they have a great relationship. And so he was kind of able to connect me here to be a grad assistant first. So I was a GA for Coach Morin for a couple of years. And then I think as far as my experience with Indiana, I can't speak enough about the culture that Coach Morin has built here. And to where it is now, to when it was when I was a GA, it's grown even more. But I thought, I was working hard as a player. There's a whole nother level of working hard when you switch over to this side. And even, I had a good work ethic, when I compare myself to players now or to the teammates I had, I did, but there's still a whole nother level. And I give a lot of credit to that, to Coach Morin and her staff for really pushing me to reach that next level. And so I really believe that the grad assistant job here at Indiana is better than anywhere in the country. What I was able to do and what the experience that I got, we allow them to be involved in everything on the court. They help our director of operations with logistics. They help us with scouting and film breakdown. We get worked, but it's great because it's great experience. And so I think that just helped me grow. And then I went and spent 1 year at Furman as an assistant for Coach Jackie Carson, which was another great experience. For me, it's been awesome to work with 3 different head coaches. They all operate differently, different systems, they're different personalities, the way that they, run their programs and what they allow their staffs to do. And then after that year was when Coach Moore brought me back during the pandemic. So I'm headed into my 2nd year as an assistant here. It's been awesome to kind of come back and see the players that I worked with as a grad assistant. And now they're the old ones. So, Allie Patberg, Grace Berger, Alexa Golbey, all 3 of them, I believe that's it now that are remaining. But last year, obviously we had more. But to see how they've grown and matured, not only as players, but as people, and their confidence and their ability to lead has been truly special. And also just getting to be back and kind of take a new role. And again, I can't express how grateful I am to work with the people that we have in this program. And that's a testament to Coach Morin and who she's brought in here, and that staff and players and every person in our program is high character, unselfish, hardworking, just what you would want, And so as far as looking back, something I think that would be the biggest thing I mentioned is I would have wished that I would have known what truly working hard meant when I was 17 and 18 and younger. But it's fun to be on the other side and to see it register with our young ones, or even with our current GAs right now who are kind of experiencing it and going through it. And so that would be the biggest thing is I think my experience at Indiana, has really opened my eyes to what working hard really means. I know that was pretty long, so hopefully that was at least entertaining for you.
No,
guys.
that was perfect. And you're an excellent public speaker too.
Well, I appreciate that, but I don't know. I'm working to get better.
You're carrying the meeting. Joe, it looked like you had a question.
Yeah, so, and I know a little bit, because we get some interest as the firm on this. NCAA opening up the student athlete rules to essentially allow private endorsements by student athletes. And I know in the men's game, there's been some interest from the bigger names here. Has that transferred to the women's game? Are athletes asking about private endorsement deals or what can happen from them playing?
Are you talking about like NIL? Is that what you're talking about? Yes. So that's something that is definitely happening. I don't know if every single one of our players has a deal or an opportunity, but if not, it's very close to it. And now a lot of them look differently. It can come in any form. So there's, you can get paid, you can to post ads, monetarily speaking, or maybe they're just getting free food. And so we think it's awesome. One of the biggest things is that we're grateful that we don't have to worry about that interfering with the basketball piece or going to, affect anything as far as our locker room and our culture, because we have great kids. We have great high character, like I mentioned, unselfish, mature kids. And, yes, we want them to take opportunities and to take advantage of what's available to them. And they have done that. But at the end of the day, the goal is to win a national championship. The goal is to be the best teammate. The goal is to be the best person they can be when they leave here. And they don't lose sight of that. And so we're super grateful for that. But yes, there's been several opportunities. Allie Patberg is, taking full advantage of things, being a Indiana kid and being, the 7th year player that she is. So she's definitely reaping the benefits, but they all are in some form. Even our freshmen who just got here and haven't played a game are, being reached out to and provided with opportunities. So IU administration has done a terrific job of being prepared for that legislation to pass.
I'm curious to know, as a recruiter, and you mentioned film. I mean, everybody's got a camera these days, so everybody's on the court being filmed or filming themselves. How do you? What are you looking for? I mean, if you're getting thousands of submissions because everybody has a camera, how do you view that in a way that what are your indicators? What stands out to you?
Well, I think first, one of the things about being at Indiana and in a place where, we are fortunate to be good, is there's a certain level of talent that, a player needs to have for us to investigate further. And so I think when we see this film, whereas in comparison to when I was at Furman, the pool of athletes, the pool of talent when you're recruiting at IU is much smaller than when you're recruiting at Furman. So there's there, and I'm not saying it's always like this, but for the most part, when you look at a player, if they're good enough to play here. Whereas at Furman, that pool of the level of players is a lot bigger. There's just more out there. So when we're looking
specifically, I'm sorry, not to interrupt, but do they need to do they need to clock a certain court speed? Do they need to be able to, jump a certain height? Like, what are some specific markers?
No, I think when it's for us, for guards, we want players that can pass it, handle it, shoot it. That's what we want. You need to be high skilled to play here. You need to be smart to play here. And again, it's the culture piece. We want players that are going to come in and work their tails off, that are going to be coachable. All those intangibles are equally as important. And so we evaluate the talent. I think size, athleticism has become increasingly more important each year. So we love big guards. If you guys watch us play, Grace Berger, she's 6 foot. Allie's pushing 6 foot. We've got a couple off the bench that are right around there, 5'10" and up. And so we love big guards. So to say we don't look at height and things like that, that would not be true. But the skill piece is super important, and post players as well. You got to be smart. I mean, Mackenzie, we have an All-American right now down there. And so recruiting gets a little harder because you're like, well, she's not Mac. Well, a lot of posts aren't going to be her. And so, we just look to evaluate the athleticism. Do they meet that minimum, mobility wise as a post player? Can they move, and then do they fit our system? So we want to play fast. Like I said, you got to be able to pass it, handle it, shoot it if you're going to play on the perimeter. So you got to be able to do those things. And as a post player, can you score one-on-one? So there's no like check box, but there's a certain level of talent that a player needs to have. And if we don't see that right away on film, typically, at least do we think they have a shot, then we just keep it moving. Because like you said, we get a lot. And so, when we see one that might be interesting, then we'll follow up and we'll try and get a full game film and then go see them in person.
Anybody else have any questions? I have two more that I can ask if nobody else has any. Okay, so, just to kind of, as we wrap things up, is there anything that you wish somebody would ask you about the program? I mean, I'm sure you get asked all the time, X, Y, and Z, but is there anything that you like to talk about that you never get to talk about?
I mean, I think I find ways to do it. I could talk
Mhm.
about how great our kids are all day. So that's, Coach Morin says it when we're recruiting all the time. The greatest thing about Indiana is our players. They're the best place. They're the best thing about this place. And so, getting to work with them and coach them, is awesome, because it's not like that everywhere. The locker rooms, the scenarios that can exist with 15 young ladies and, on a team aren't always perfect. And I'm not saying ours is perfect, but as far as the personalities and the characters of these young ladies, it's a privilege to get to work with them.
Well, what's the schedule look like for the rest of the year, and what are tickets going to cost? I remember hearing that season tickets are reasonable.
They usually are. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what they cost. I'm hoping people are buying them. We feel good. We think Kentucky's our home opener, which is a big one. We were up on them all year. Or last year when we played them, we were up pretty much the whole game and just couldn't finish it out at their place. And so we'll be ready for that one, and it'll be good to start with that. And I think our fans, they're going to show out, and I think that'll help.
What date is that going to be? What's the date of that game?
I think it's the 14th, November 14th.
November 14th. And then are there going to be any other exciting head-to-heads?
Yeah, I mean, our non-conference is going to be fun. So we get to play NC State again, which is extra special for me. So they'll be coming to Bloomington. I believe it's the 2nd of December in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. We go to the Bahamas and we will play Stanford, who are the defending national champions. And that is right around Thanksgiving. We will also play Miami down there. And so that's another, awesome test for us. Who else we got? I mean, we've got a great non-conference. We'll play at Quinnipiac, which they are a very good team, and playing on the road there will be a great test for us to get ready for Big Ten play. And then, the Big Ten is what we feel like the best basketball conference in the country. So we had 4 teams in the Sweet 16 last year, all of which return a good part of their team, if not all of it. And so we get to play, I think, close to 10. I think it was 7 or 8 top 10 games are currently on our schedule against top 10 opponents. And so it's going to be a battle. But we are excited, and we really feel like the sky's the limit for our group. And so we're just focusing on one day at a time and not living in the past. Because we know we're proud of what we did last year, and that was a lot of fun, but nobody cares, and so we tell them every day, nobody cares, the target's on our back, and we got to embrace that.
I have one omitted question. I don't want to take too much of your time, but you had mentioned you have a new recruit, a young lady, I think it was from Serbia.
Yeah.
And so how does a foreign athlete get on your radar? And then how do you compare them to the U.S. athletes that are competing in AAU and high school? And
Sure.
so forth?
So yeah, Mona's from Serbia, and she is Alexa Golbe is a starter for us, and she's from Latvia, so she'll be a senior. Keandra Brown, who comes off the bench for us, she's from Canada. And then Nikki, who starts at point guard, she grew up in Spain, so she played high school in Texas. But so we recruit internationally. This is not new for us by any means, and it's similar. So we receive emails. We all, as assistants and Coach Warren, have different international connections. Because of COVID, we haven't flown over there, but in a typical year, I mean, I know Coach Rhett and Coach Box have both been over there. Coach Rhett predominantly has been to Europe. I know Coach Box has been to Australia. I'm sure we will be going back over there once we are allowed to. And so it's the same kind of thing. It's a different game over there. So you're right. Sometimes evaluating can be challenging, especially on film, because they're not playing sometimes against the same kind of athleticism that you can see at the high school level here in the States. But at the same time, arguably can, have more skill at certain positions, and they just play a different game. They can be bigger. And so it is different, but it's still the same kind of thing. We get film on them. We try to evaluate that. And then in a non-pandemic world, we get on a plane and we go over there and see them. And so we've had a lot of success. Like I said, Alexa Golbe has been a just home run hit from Latvia, the time that she's got here, and to the player and to the person that she's evolved into. Keandra Brown from Canada. I mean, she's awesome to have that coming in off the bench, and she has an extremely bright future. And then Nikki transferred in from George Mason, but she's George Mason's all-time leading scorer in 3 years. And so the international talent's definitely there, and we definitely recruit it.
Well, I think you've definitely met your time mark for this presentation. And Joe, that was an excellent question. That question was so good, it should have been mine, but I'm glad you asked it. Thank you so much, Ashlee, for taking the time to join with us today. And we have Go Hoosiers. I've got an exceptionally tall 2 3/4-year-old daughter, and I've got aspirations for her with the women's basketball team. So we're looking to introduce her to that young.
I like that.
And, I hope we get an opportunity to connect in person. But thanks so much for taking the time today. And if Rotary can be of service, let us know. Reach out to us. And anything else for the good of the cause from the group? I'm not seeing anybody unpause. We've got Sojourn House Workday next Saturday. We've got the Rotary Toast coming up. Hopefully we're going to have a field trip to Morgenstern's in the next 2 weeks. And I'll update you all on that once we know a little bit more about it. So
thank y'all for having me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right. Ashlee, take care.
Yep.
Okay. Well, boys and girls, I think that does it for Rotary. Good to see you all. I'll be in touch. Cheers. Stop.
Hey Gabe, anything we need to talk about on speakers?
Beyond, hold on one second.